Snorty to Captain Carrick! Snorty to Captain Carrick! Oh, for heaven's sake, Snorty, what is it this time? Captain, I've been turned into a giant. I don't even fit inside the ship anymore. What are you talking about? Look outside the starboard window. Great heavens, man, you're huge. That's what I've been trying to tell ya. What am I going to do? Well, I don't know about you, but for the rest of us it means bacon all week. Woohoo! Why, that rotten Captain Jerk, more like it. Hey everybody. Well, today we're going to take a look at this model kit of the original series Enterprise. Now this is a repro of the original kit that came out, I don't even know how long ago it was. This is the one from AMT, and it wasn't an accurate model of the Enterprise, but back then I think the vast majority of us built this kit back when we were kids. And even though it wasn't accurate, we were just happy to have it because there wasn't a whole lot of Enterprise models around. But what's really cool about this one is that they've reissued the kit. They have this nice 50th anniversary cover on here. It's like a little sleeve. And here, actually, let me take this off so we can actually look at the box a little better. So you can see here it's got the classic artwork. And just even looking at this is really cool. Hopefully I'm not getting too much glare on this. But you can actually see how the Enterprise looks. Just looking at that kind of brings me back to when I was a kid. It's just so cool to see that old artwork. And so I built this when I was, I don't even know how old, and I didn't do a very good job on it. I was just a kid. I just built it right out of the box. I didn't paint it or anything. I just slapped the decals on, and it hung on the ceiling for years and years until the glue just yellowed and the model pretty much fell apart. But I'm sure that we all kind of had a similar experience. Now here's the back, and you can see that they revamped a few things on here. The biggest one is that they got rid of those garish grid lines that used to be on the saucer, if I can recall. I mean, it's been a long time. But they made it smooth, or at least on this one. I think this is the 50th anniversary edition. I don't know if the other version has that or not. But I'm just glad to have the smoother saucer. This also comes with the nice domed stand and the metal that's on there. So sorry about the glare on here. So anyway, it's pretty much the exact same kit. It wasn't really made for lighting, although I think some people are lighting this. I'm not lighting it. I don't do lighting in models anymore. I kind of gave up on that. And I'm just going to pretty much build it out of the box. This is mainly just a nostalgia thing. And this kit's been out for a while. It's been out for about 3 or 4 years, and I've been on the fence about buying it for the longest time because, you know, I just kind of didn't want to build this old kit again. I mean, the bridge is inaccurate, and this section doesn't look right, and we have so much better, more accurate kits now, especially the 1/350 scale, the big 2.5, 3-footer, whatever it is. I built 2 of those. But this one is strictly just, you know, walk down memory lane type of thing. So I think it'll be pretty fun to build. All right, well, let's open it up and see what the parts look like. All right, so here are the parts that this comes with. And the first thing that got my attention is that this model is much smaller than I thought it was. For some reason, I thought it was bigger. But maybe it's because I was a kid back then and things just seemed bigger back then. Also, this is a very basic kit, very, very basic. You know, you realize when you look at an old kit like this, how far modeling has come and molding and the way they do things. Just, you know, like this piece here would have been a separate piece from this. And yeah, you know, you look at some of these pieces in here and I don't know. The saucer here has a ton of these big chunks of flash on the end. That's going to be a real pain to cut those off. And make sure you sand everything down. Here's the bottom. But yeah, there you can see it's got all that stuff on there. Yeah, it's pretty basic. It's so weird to see that being a smooth saucer. I mean, I always hated those grid lines on this. So there's the bridge. You can see that it's just not the right shape, the way that looks, and then also from the side it doesn't look quite right. That was one thing that always bugged me about this kit as well. And let's see, what else do we got here? Here are the buzzard collectors on the front. I thought that was clear. But I guess not. I guess they were all one molded piece. I'll probably just paint those red. That is the main sensor dish there. And it looks like, oh yeah, they even have the post in the middle. Usually that would be a separate piece as well. Interestingly, they do provide the original stand for the model, which I don't remember because I always kept mine hung from the ceiling. What else do we got going on in here? This is kind of the same, but we have those back sections there. I hope these engines don't sag. I don't know. That's one thing I always wondered about, is the sagging issue. You can see the lack of detail on these old kits. It's really kind of amazing to look at something like this. There's the main sensor dish section there. That one came loose, and then we also have here the secondary hull. See, that's all one piece as well. Doesn't look like they changed anything in there to make that a little bit better. Well, I don't know. I can't remember how it was originally to make those not sag as much. But here's the bottom half of that. And that hole is probably new, because I don't think it had the metal stand back there. Well, no, I know it didn't. So yeah, kind of a rudimentary kit, really. But I don't know. At least I don't feel too obligated to go completely crazy about it, just because of how basic and old this kit actually is. Here's the stand that this comes with. This is actually a pretty large domed stand for this model, but it is nice they provided. I think I read somewhere that Round 2 is no longer going to sell these individually anymore. So that's too bad. A lot of modelers like it. That's the nice metal post for this. And then here are some clear pieces that I forgot to show earlier for the bridge and the planetary sensor. These were green. I know when I was a kid these were green. They were like a clear green color. And it's kind of cool how they made these clear now. I'm just going to end up painting these white anyway. But, you know, I always wondered why they made them green. And I just recently saw an article that showed a rare picture of the filming, the 11-foot filming miniature. And it showed that the bottom planetary sensor thing actually was green. It had a green tint to it. And they suspect that the original dome had a green tint to it as well. But unfortunately, the original dome was lost over time. So the one you see on the 11-foot miniature is a replacement. And same with the main sensor dish. That's been replaced as well. I've had the pleasure of seeing the 11-foot model at the Smithsonian 2 separate times, once before the 1992 restoration, and then right after it was restored for the 1992 restoration. In fact, I know the gentleman who restored it. And we had a friend of mine and I went to Washington, D.C. to go see the Star Trek exhibit, and the model, the 11-foot model, was hanging so low you could actually touch it. It was so weird. So I touched the bottom of the Enterprise, and so was everybody else. But it was really odd that they did that. I mean, they would never do that now. But anyway, glad it has a decent stand to it. Here is the decal sheet for this, and interestingly, I was really shocked to see this. Okay, first of all, they give you this, which is really nice. This is just about every other registry and name of a ship that you want, so you don't have to make this the Enterprise. You can make it whatever you want. I don't remember if the original kit came with this. You can even make the Mirror Universe version, which is pretty cool. And so that's pretty neat. And then this is the Enterprise, the standard Enterprise ones. But what's really shocking to me is these are actually the decals right here. I haven't taken them out of the package. These are stickers. These are actually stickers. It comes with stickers if you want to use those instead of decals. And I'm kind of curious to see if these actually are decent or not. I don't know. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with the decals, but I think it's nice that they offer stickers as an option. At least with the Bondi kits, the stickers work really, really well on those, surprisingly well. I don't know if these have the same kind of results when you put them on, but it's actually very nice that they give you all of this stuff. All right, well, I guess I'll get started on this. Let me show you the paint I'm going to use. So for this kit, I'm just going to use Surface Primer as the color of the Enterprise. I figure this is a nice color. It's almost like a concrete color, which is what I always felt that the Enterprise kind of has. When I was a kid, I always thought the Enterprise was white, because watching it on our old, TVs, everything was so washed out that the Enterprise just looked white on there, especially if it was a black and white TV, obviously, but when we went to color, everything was washed out because they always overlit everything back in those days, because the cameras, they were just so slow when the film went through it. And so anyway, it wasn't until many, many years later I did realize that there was actually weathering details on the Enterprise and certain details on it you never saw on TV. But I'm going to go for this gray color. Of course, it's always a point of contention with builders as to what color gray the Enterprise is. And I think they actually have the color code to match the 11-foot miniature at the Smithsonian. But I just want a simple thing, and I figure primer, this is cheaper. I think it was 12 bucks for this versus a $7 for a can that's only, not much bigger than, or smaller. I mean, it's not very big, so at least you get enough in here to do a whole model. This is the color I'm going to use for the highlights of the ship, the darker areas of some of the details on there. This is to me a dark sea gray. It's a number XF54, and I think that'll work. It's not overly dark and it's not overly done, but yeah, since there's not a lot of detail on this kit, so hopefully those will work out. Okay, so just moving right along here. So normally when I build models, I spray paint everything on the sprue while the parts are still on the sprues. But in this case, I think I needed to actually do the sub-assemblies. So here's the saucer. It's all glued together. And let's see, the two engine nacelles here, and then the secondary hull down here. I'm going to have to do some seam work on this. These older kits, they weren't very good about the way they fit. And I usually don't worry about seams. I'm not really a seam guy, but in this case, I think I'm going to have to, try to fix it a little bit. Another thing that was interesting is when you're putting on the bustard collector here on the front, there's no keys or pins that go into holes. It just kind of, you have to kind of figure out where, you have to make sure that everything is aligned properly just on your own. So you have to actually insert this into the secondary hole to make sure you got these, if I can focus on it, these little bumps that are on the edges right here of the bustard collectors. You got to make sure that they're in the right alignment. And then this thing is a separate piece. You got to make sure you put that on in the right spot too. There's no keys on it anywhere. You got to make sure it overlaps this a little bit. But you can see how rough all of this is. I'm not really sure how good I can make this look. It's no wonder we didn't always have the best looking models as kids, because let's face it, the model kits themselves weren't that great. I mean, there's a lot of detail lacking on these things. At least on this one, it's got see the windows, you can kind of see them etched in there, so it help you, guide on where to put the decals on here. I think the decals are what's going to save this model, because there's just not a whole lot of detail on here. I mean, you can paint things, but there's not a lot of detail on the original Enterprise. But this is before the days of putting greeblies all over everything. Star Trek always had such clean looking ships, so it's always hard to make them look a little better. But anyway, I got that much done. I think I'm going to let these sit overnight to dry, and then tomorrow I'm going to start sanding and filling the gaps and stuff, and then painting. So hopefully that all works out. Okay, so got quite a bit of work done here. Now everything is all the putty worked. I'm not the world's best seam filler. As you can see here, I still got some seam showing. But, some of the seams were pretty bad on here. It would take a ton of putty to get it right. But for the most part, I think it turned out looking pretty decent. And I really like this gray color. This is that primer, and I think it actually looks really nice. Not sure how it's looking on camera here. It looks almost like a bluish gray, while it's more of a concrete gray in person. But yeah, I think it looks pretty decent on this. So now I think before I start putting everything together, I'm going to start painting some of the finer details on here. So I'm going to use this paint here. This is Tamiya XF54 Dark Sea Gray, and I'm going to use that for the colors of like this little strong back thing. I don't know. I wonder if that's going to be dark enough. Yeah, in person it looks more dark than it does on camera. So I'm going to be touching those areas up, painting the bustard collectors red. I think those things are silver, but I'm not sure. Silver in the section here where the chiller grills are. And I think these have white or some kind of light gray on the edges. So yeah, we'll start painting all these details out. I think I'll paint these the darker sea gray color as well. All right, well, let's see how that looks. Alrighty, so I think I got everything painted now that needs to be painted, thank goodness, because I just don't like painting. I know it's an essential part of model building, but I'm just not a fan of it. So this, the saucer here, the only thing I'm going to paint on here is that thing I showed earlier. The bottom has got those rings, but there is no way I'm going to mask those off to put that goldish brown color that goes on there. And I don't even know about those 3 holes right there. I don't remember those being on the Enterprise, but maybe they are, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of leave that the way it is. The engines are now all painted. Got the silver and that dark gray area in here, the dark gray over there. The mustard collectors are red, and that brown or that dark gray area on there. So yeah, I was debating on whether to paint these orange or something instead of just plain red. I experimented with different stuff, but I don't know. I think I'll just stick with the red. And then let's see, these are painted now. I used a really light gray on the ends there, and same with those ones right there. So yeah, those are done as well. And then there is the secondary hull here. That copper, you know, the this section here isn't accurate. This, I think, is supposed to stick out more. It's kind of an awkward looking thing. And then there's that little stripe that goes on the front of the neck. For many, many years, I never knew that the Enterprise had that different colored stripe on the front. And it wasn't until the 350 scale Enterprise came out. But anyway, I think I used JN Gray for that, which is Tamiya JN Gray. So there we go. Okay, so I think I'm ready now to glue all of this together. And then once it's glued, I'm going to spray the whole thing down with a gloss coat so I can start putting the decals on, thankfully. I think I'm also going to paint the base here. I'm going to spray it with this blue right here for like the ocean color or something. I'm going to try to make it look like an Earth-like planet. So maybe something just to kind of gussy that up. All right, well, let's see what it all looks like when I get everything all glued together. All right, well, it's no Bob Ross, but it'll do. Yeah, this looks pretty decent, I think. It's at least gussied up the base. That blue looks really good. I really like the blue that's on there from Tamiya. So for the little continents there and the clouds, I just used pieces of sponge. I just cut some pieces of sponge and then dipped them into a dark brown, a light brown, and some white, and just kind of randomly came up with some continents, and then made some little mountain ridges and stuff, and then just put some clouds in there. I think it looks pretty decent. So I'm going to spray this with a dull coat to get rid of that shine. So now I'm finally going to get started putting this together. I kind of got sidetracked with this. I think I'm going to wait to put that little main deflector dish on until I'm completely finished. I don't want to accidentally knock it off of there when I'm doing decals and stuff. And I forgot to glue those on to the saucer. But all right, so let me get these put together, give it a gloss coat, and then we can get started on the decals. Okay, so there it is, all assembled now. And it's looking pretty decent, actually, considering all things considered. One thing I noticed about this kit, remember I was mentioning the sagging issue of the nacelles, how the nacelles sagged. I think all of us had that problem who built this when we were kids. They definitely revamped something in here. I think what it is, if I can recall, I mean, this was a long time ago, the original version of the model, I think these struts were separate from the nacelles. In this kit, the struts are actually molded to each half of the nacelles, which makes these way stronger and much better. And the way they fit into the secondary hull here, I think that is a different, maybe different, I don't know. It just had a much more solid way of connecting into there. But you can see there is no sag on this at all. See how those are perfectly straight? I mean, that looks really good. So that was a really good thing that they did there. So yeah, it's looking pretty decent so far. All right, so I think I'm going to get back to work on this tomorrow. But for you guys, it'll be just about 1 second. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting the decals on. And then I'm going to give it a dull coat so that we get rid of that shine. And I think we should hopefully be finished. So, oh, I got to also glue on that little main sensor dish here on the front too when I get done. All right, so very good. We'll take a look at it when it's finished. All right, there it is. It's completely finished now, and geez, what a kit. I mean, it wasn't that bad to build. It's not really that complicated of a kit. There's not that many parts to it, but you know, it does suffer from, you know, old kit syndrome. Especially nowadays, you know, we get so used to building kits today, and we're spoiled with the way they are made and the way they are molded. And I mean, Bondi kits go together without glue. That's how good, you know, they are engineered. This kit here, you know, although it does have some improvements, there are some things about it that just don't seem to fit very well. I barely remember building this kit as a kid. I mean, I don't even know how long ago it was. This kit probably came out in 1967, maybe. Since they used one of these models for the Doomsday Machine episode for the Constellation, they actually didn't have the budget to build another special effects model, so they just went to the local store and bought one of these kits and used it as the Constellation, and they just made it look really beat up and torn up. And if you watch that show, that episode with the original special effects, not the CGI, there's a scene where you get the back view of it like this, and Kirk is driving it into the mouth of the giant planet killer, and you can really tell in that scene that this model is just one of these models, and the model actually even shakes at one point. I don't know if it was intentional to make it seem like the ship is not in good shape, but the way it shakes, even as a kid, I was like, my gosh, that was horrible. So it's really funny to watch that scene. But this kit is still pretty good for the most part. For me personally, it was fun building it because it was a nostalgia thing, and also because for so many years I always saw it as just this kit that was just white. I didn't paint it, didn't do any detailing on it, didn't do it justice at all. And so to see it like this after all these years is kind of heartwarming. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I really love the way it turned out. Okay, let me get you some close-ups, but not too close. I don't want to have you see all the mistakes. All right, so let's take a look at this now. We'll start from the top. I did do a little bit of weathering on it. I didn't go overboard. It's really hard for me to not go overboard with the weathering. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but it seems like once you start doing it, it's really hard to not overdo it. I've done that with a lot of models. This one I really tried to really curtail overdoing it, but I just kind of did some like in the bridge area here. I just kind of tried to get the corners and along the edges where it would show. The original 11-foot model does have a ton of weathering on the saucer. I think most people would be surprised to see that because you never really got to see it in the original show since it was always washed out. Now, I did want to do that rust ring that goes on the front. I really love that rust ring that goes on here, but since there's no grid lines on here, I didn't really know exactly where it would be. I think it's underneath the 1701, and I think it kind of comes up to where these lights are. But, I'm not sure I got this exactly where it needs to be. I'm sure it's pretty close. And plus, masking off a curve, I guess I could have used that Tamiya tape to do it, but then I'd be having to mask along the decal here too to get it, where the line is up here, and I don't want to rip the decal off. So I just went ahead and forgot about it. I did a little bit of streaking on there, which the original model does have. These Bussard collectors, I just left them red as I showed before, and I did do the little tips here with the silver. A little bit of weathering there on the tips of the engines. You can see the seam there, but oh well. Like I said, I'm not really a seam guy. I usually don't even care about the seams, but this model in particular, some of the seams were really bad. There's the back intercoolers, and they do have the two-tone color. As far as I know, that's what they're supposed to look like. Inside here, I did paint the inside that dark gray color and then silver for the chiller grills on there. And there's a little more weathering on that section there. Here's the front view of this. And I think it looks pretty good. I try not to, like I said, overdo the weathering on the front here. You can really tell how the bridge doesn't look quite right in this model. It was not an accurate model. But that smooth saucer, though, boy, I love it. Now, I got to say, this kit relies heavily on the decals. I mean, it's just one of those models where there's no windows molded into it, there's no holes cut into it or anything like that. So you really need those decals. And I'm trying to remember if this kit had as many decals as this kit did. I think those decals are new because I don't remember having all these, I don't know, there's certain things on here I don't remember having. Like, I'm not sure these white windows were on there. And definitely some of these windows I don't think were on the original kit. One thing I wish this did have is on the back here. This is actually a decal for, let's see if I can get some light on here. This little light right here, that's normally a dome, but it's just part of the decal. And I wish they did have a little piece that they could have put on there just to make it more three-dimensional. They also did not have any of the red and green lights on the side there. But one thing also that was strange is that the windows do not match where the decals go. Let me see if I can zoom in on here. Now, if you see closely, Um, well, it's kind of hard to tell here. You can see it, well, maybe, let me see if I can get some light in there by the neck. See how the windows that are actually part of the kit, that are molded into the kit, they don't match the windows on the decal? And I thought that was really strange. I mean, you can't even, I mean, they're not even the same size. So it's almost like when they made the decals, they didn't even pay attention to what the details were on the actual kit. But, you know, thankfully you don't really see it that much. You know, the decals kind of take your eye away from that. But it is kind of strange. I found that kind of weird. These decals, they went on really good. And I mean, you just dipped them in water for like a few seconds and they were already ready to go. You know, sometimes these decals, you have to soak them for a little while. That wasn't the case with these. These ones really went in quick and easy, and they were easy to apply. One of the decals that gave me some problems were the side windows right there on the BC deck. See how they're not quite even? They didn't quite fit around the curvature of that section, and I don't know why. No matter which way I arranged it, they didn't quite fit. Same thing on this side. This side looks a little better, but it's kind of the same. So I don't know what the deal was with that. And then another part that was kind of weird is these sections right in here. Now let me see if I can get some light in here. So these little grills, the decals for those do not match up with the details on the actual model. So if you look, see if I can get the light in here. If you look closely, you can see how the grill is still, you can still see some of it down here. So the spacing of the decals doesn't match the spacing on the actual model. And I didn't notice it until after I already put one on and it was already set, so I couldn't take it off. Otherwise, I would have had to cut each one. So if you decide to build this kit, you need to cut each one of these separately so you can put them on straight. But I don't think anybody's going to notice that because it is really not noticeable at all. And so because I messed up on the that one, or whichever one it was, I had to do the same for the one on that side as well. So yeah, some things just didn't match up. Looking at the underside now, we can see the decals that were included for this. Now, I'm pretty sure that on the original kit, they did not have those little markers, those little numbers that show up there. I'm pretty sure that wasn't on there, but maybe they were. I don't know. It just seems like the decals were way more detailed than what I remember. You can see they even have tiny little windows right here, and even the tiny little windows right there, which is pretty amazing. Those were really tiny decals. One thing I wish they did have, though, and they even show it in the instructions, were these those little triangular shaped things that go this way and this way. Some people call them the eyebrows, and I was expecting to see that in the decal sheet, but they weren't in there. So that's really a shame because it does look a little strange not having those on there. But, you know, I guess it's okay. It's about the only one I can think of that wasn't included in this. But, you know, once again, you can see how the windows don't match up with the actual ones on the hull right there. But yeah, I think it looks okay. Oh, the other thing is that the way the neck connects to the saucer, I really had to struggle with that. There was a huge gap right there. There's still kind of a gap right there, but there's actually kind of a flat section on the bottom part of the saucer down here. And it makes it look like it's more elevated than it actually is. But I weathered it to kind of help hide it a little bit. But I had to really sand the heck down of the big long stud that's on there that kind of goes inside the saucer. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was sticking up too high or what, but you have to really kind of smash that on there and sand that down because otherwise it's just not going to fit quite right. So I did struggle with that for a little bit. But yeah, and the other thing is the way the bustard collectors connect to the engines. It's kind of weird. This piece here, it's all one piece. Usually those are separate, but in this case it was all one piece. And at the other decal that wasn't included, there's that dark shaded area that's supposed to be under there. And I thought that was going to be a part of the decal sheet too, but it wasn't in there. I'm really glad that I decided to paint the base. I think that looks really good and does make it look like the Enterprise is actually orbiting some kind of an Earth-like M-class planet, as they would say. And but it does add a little bit more pizzazz to it. But, you know, I suppose people are going to like this kit, but man, I sure wouldn't want to do it. You'd have to drill out all those windows and somehow get the wiring through there. I mean, this model was made before people were doing that kind of stuff, and it would be a lot of work to do that, and I just wasn't willing to go there. So there we go, the 50th anniversary AMT reissue or repop of the old 1960s Enterprise kit. And really glad I bought this now. I'm really glad I built it. Like I said, I would see it over the last few years, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to build that. I had, not the greatest memories of building this kit. I just didn't think it looked all that good, even as a kid. But it's still a little rough around the edges, but the improvements with the engines, the struts, the smooth saucer, I think that really, really enhanced it. The decals really make this thing come to life, but you are going to have to do some painting on it just to, at least make it look decent. But the good thing about the original Enterprise is there really wasn't that much detail or coloring to it. It's mostly just a smooth ship. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like and subscribe. If you're interested in getting this kit, I would highly recommend it. I mean, if I can build it, anybody can. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video, and have a good one.